Hugong, buzzing, sounds, murmurs, rumblings.
Hi, good afternoon.
Uh,
Good afternoon. Let me explain the history of koto. The instrument usually has 13 strings. There are different versions with 17 strings, 21, 22, or 25 strings. But in standard koto is the one with 13 strings. The size, the length is approximately 6 feet. Then the body is made of paulownia wood. And then the instrument has movable bridges for each string. And then the players put 3 small picks onto the 3 fingers of the right hand. In ancient time, the term koto was named for all stringed instruments. The oldest record about the stringed instrument in Japan is this. This is called haniwa, terracotta figurines. These are offerings for the dead noble people. So now we can see the existence of instrument. This is the instrument. So you can see the instrument has apparently 4 strings here. By 8th century, this kind of indigenous stringed instrument was called wagong. So this is a wagong. Around the 5th century, 2 different stringed instruments came from China. The one is called kin no koto. This one, the kin. This instrument has the same ancestor of queen. Chinese instrument. Then another one is so no koto. So nowadays, what we call koto, the descendant of this instrument, so no koto. So this is this instrument can be found in different Asian countries. The common elements is long wooden body and then the string, and it has I may say movable bridges under each string. So yeah, this is called koto in Japan, and in Korea there is a kayagum, a much smaller instrument. Of course, the mainland China continent has the guzheng. Then in Vietnam, they have dantran. Then this yatga is a Mongolian instrument. This is a huge, quite huge instrument. Then you put this part on your near your stomach, abdominal part. The string part actually reaches the ground. So the sonokoto or koto came from China to Japan in most probably 5th century. From 5th century to 12th century, the instrument was exclusively for aristocrat people. Especially the instrument was played by male noble people. And then from 12th century, Buddhist monks started playing it. So their style was called tsukushigoto. And by 17th century, the monk, the blind monk actually formed the organization. They accepted blind players who are not necessarily monks. So that that kind of guild formed professional blind koto players. Their style was called zokso. Then tsukushigoto and zokso styles clearly separated because Tsukushigoto was quite well protected, not to go to the common people. So that's why this Zokso style was the one that went into common people and popularized. So after 17th century, the famous Yatsuhashi Kengyo, by the way, Kengyo is the highest rank of blind professional groups. So Yatsuhashi, the prominent composer and performer Ikuta and Yamada, and many more. So those professional koto players established school, their own style, then their own repertoire. Then by 17th or 18th century, koto was widely popularized in Japan. Then, so it made what we now consider the classic of koto music. So when we mention koto classics, then that's the 17th to 19th century repertoire. Okay. So this is a portrait of Yatsuhashi Kengyo. What was very prominent about him is he performed and taught koto to the general audience as a professional performer, and he created a new style of koto music. So he combined the instrument with a vocal part. So that his repertoire is called kumi uta. Uh, and also he created instrumental pieces. This is quite new because the koto music before him was actually part of gagaku, Japanese ancient orchestra, or other Buddhist religious music. So it was not koto. The instrument was not considered as one of the genre of artistic form. He also created several tunings which are considered as basic tuning of koto music. Hirajoshi scale and Kumoi Joshi scale. The Kumoi has three different versions. Now, these are quite commonly used. What is prominent about his tuning is these included half-tone intervals. Considering folk music in Japan as minor and major pentatonic five-tone system, so Hirajoshi, Kumoi Joshi was quite new during that time. Commonly think Yatsuhashi is a composer of Rokudan no Shirabe, which is canon for all koto learners nowadays. But there are several different theories. Recent, I may say, theory is Rokudan was influenced by Gregorian chanting in the 17th century, which was brought by Portuguese and Spanish missionaries to Japan. The classic koto music, the mainstream music in the 18th and the 19th century was therefore not solo instrumental pieces, instrumental music, but always with vocal part. And then it was usually played with different instruments, particularly shamisen, kokyu, or shakuhachi, or other Japanese traditional instruments. Then a vocal style was called the jiuta. And the three instrument chamber is called the sankyoku gasso. So even now, the koto players that required to study jiuta. So we are trained to sing. Then actually shamisen is a requirement for koto player. So during that time, the learning or education system of Koto music is established, which is called Iemoto. Iemoto is grandmaster, so the student enrolled, become an apprentice of that Iemoto master. It forms a group of people, and it's usually called school. So these three traditions actually continue up to now. So characteristic to traditional Koto music, the first one is lack of vertical sound units, and that means the Koto music didn't have harmony. So it's a linear lines. Then throughout compose, no repeat, no repetition. So the musical ideas just continue. Thirdly, artistry of less action, more emotion. So the Koto players are trained to sit still, then avoid making other expressive movements. The use of noise, this is actually the pretty common among different musical traditions of Japan. So using this high edge of the tsume or a different playing method make different kind of noise. No? So it was considered as a part of the texture of the sound. Word oriented, this is about the singing. No? The melody line goes with the intonation or prominence of the lyrics. Then ornamentation, the melody and vibrato. Then the heterophony, this is actually connected to the first item, lack of vertical sound unit. So then since there is no concept of chord or harmony, the vocal line, koto line, and shamisen line goes together. Actually, they are following the same line, but using the ornamentation and slight delay of the playing, it makes the different texture of the piece. And then Johakyu style, this is the format of the piece. Notice that usually Johakyu style is a slow beginning, and then toward the end, the tempo just increase. So the ending, it's really rapid. So the Meiji Restoration came, and then Japan ended its seclusion. Then countries opened to the world in the end of the 19th century. So even music, Japanese government tried to import Western music. So the Japanese government first established a music school inviting Western musicians. But all the same traditional music genres remain in Japan. But of course, the musicians at that time tried to not just try to preserve, but also contemporarization of music. So there are two prominent performer composers. The one is Miyagi Michio, and Kinichi Nakanoshima is also the giant of Koto music during the time. So Miyagi Michio, if you're a Koto player, you have to go through his pieces. He composed more than 300 pieces in his life, and he really adapted Western classical music. And the good thing about Miyagi Michio is he created the quite refined combination, fusion between tradition and Western theory. He also created the 17-string koto, which is called bass koto. He was exposed to Western music and he wanted the lower tone. He even created it, I think, 90 string, or if not 100. So he was quite innovative person. So the picture shows his recording and performance that he created. He composed the famous Haru no Mi, Spring Sea. Then originally it was duet with Chakachi, but he also played with this French violinist. So this was early 20th century recording. So Nakanoshima-kin is a scholar. No? Then he studied Stravinsky composition. Then he adapted theory. The approach was quite theoretical. And if you play or listen to his pieces, you don't really see you don't hear the influence of Western music, but you go through the theoretical analysis, you can really see he was quite vigorously used Western theory. Miyagi and Nakanoshima was the early 20th century up to the wartime. Then this was also the tradition of koto music nowadays. When the Yatsuhashi, Ikuta, Yamada, the Nakanoshima, the Miyagi, these composers, players are also creative people of their time. So they came from traditions. Of course, tradition created innovation, but their innovation became tradition nowadays. So this flexible, reflexive, the action continue up to now. So the koto players learn a tradition, then try to create our own koto music. So it continues. So, when we play koto music, what we consider, what are in our mind is, of course, tradition, and then of course innovation. Is it relevant? My music is relevant to our time, so that's a consideration. Then the identity. So for me, I'm a Japanese, so I had no difficult time to find my own identity in koto music. But that doesn't mean you have to stick to your own ethnic identity. Because I also play koto and the piano and the other instrument. So you can actually find your own individual identity in any kind of instrument. So identity is here. The particularity as an instrument, the koto has this particular sound, a particular system, but also we consider the universality. Koto is if people see koto, automatically they think this is Japanese. So we are playing Japanese music. But what about an Australian composer composes koto music? Is that Japanese music? That's an actual question. If the player is not Japanese, is he or she playing Japanese music? So actually, you can't define. It's up to what they call your interpretation, identity of the player or composer. So here comes universality to this field. We are not targeting any Japanese audience, Japanese composer, Japanese performer. Uh, so that I believe that the instrument has a universality which can be played and appreciated by any people in the world. Okay, so this is what I think when I'm dealing with this instrument.
For me kasi, pumasok ako sa music originally as a compo major. Tapos bumagsak ako. So, okay lang naman. Pero at that time, para malaking shock siya sa akin. Nag-shift ako to Asian music. Pero una, hindi ko pa alam kung anong gagawin kong major. Pero at the time, I really like watching anime. At saka, I like Japanese culture in general. So, pinili ko yung Koto as my major. For the longest time, I felt like nasa College of Music ako. Pero wala talaga ako mismong my own thing, kumbaga. After, I think, yung first year ko sa Koto, I started really getting to understand it. After ko lang parang after kong mag-practice after kong masimula mag-ensayo ng halo sa araw-araw, tapos yung unti-unti rin na naiintindihan ko yung pagtugpo sa kanya, doon ko nasimulan maramdaman na meron akong something na matatawag na ito yung instrumento ko.
Nung kung yung gusto kong pumasok sa College of Music, nung nag-review kami sa isang hotel, kasama with yung mga kilala din namin na galing sa Ilocos, na sila yung nag-review sa amin para sa entrance exam. Yung si Kuya Abu, may hawak siya kasing papel, tapos may mga Chinese characters. Tinanong ko kung ano yan. Ito para sa ko to, sabi, sa isang subject. Anong subject? Koto, sabi niya. Ano yung koto? Tinanong ko. Isa siyang Japanese na instrument. So nagtanong-tanong ako kung paano yung koto na instrument. Yung parang, sinabi niya, yung isang kamay, nagpo-push, and then yung isa, nagpa-pluck, ganun. Pero hindi ko sinearch sa internet kung ano talaga yun. Nung nakadating lang ako sa College of Music, mismo yung nakita ko yung koto, and then nung first time ko narinig na love at first sight.
So, ako naman, paano ko na-encounter yung koto? Hindi ko masasabing love at first sight kasi hindi ko pa siya nakikita noon. Pero, nakakapakinig na ako ng mga tugtugin o mga pyesa. So, akala ko pa nga noon, ang koto is yung banjo, yung itsura niya, pero hindi pala. So, hindi ko siya nakikita, pero nung narinig ko yung sample ng tugtog niya sa mga anime or sa mga games na nilalaro ko, nag-strike sa akin yung sound niya. Kasi kakaiba talaga yung timbre. And then, nung pumasok ako sa UP College of Music, nalaman ko na nag-offer sila ng koto. And then sabi ko noon, if makaka-encounter ako ng koto, gusto kong pag-aralan. Kasi nga, na-inlove ako sa tunog niya. Hindi ko man siya nakikita pa.
For all my life before UP, I'm so into Western. That's that's basically most of us yung background natin, di ba? Sa school or sa I've been studying piano and violin for the longest time. Tapos, so I would want to widen my horizons as a music student. I think that's the first time I saw nung nag-apply ako ng entrance exam sa UP. First time kong makakita ng koto or what. And it's a love at first sight. Na nung mag-enroll na, hindi ko alam na nung year ko, kulintang lang yung major. And I thought, pwede ako mag-major ng koto.
Nung high school po ako, napag-aralan po namin sa Samape. In-invite po kami sa concert po ng UP Tugma. And nung time po na yun, may mga kasama pa po na mga native po talaga na Japanese na tumugtog. Kaya, yun po, simula nun, nakita ko po yung koto and na-curious po ako doon sa koto. Dahil nga po, unique siya and yung sound din po na nagagawa niya.
Dati, nakapokus lang ako sa Western. Favorite kong ensemble sa tugma ay yung koto. Kasi, ayun, medyo naging interested din ako sa Japanese culture. So, ayun, nag-try akong matuto sa koto. Ayun, kahit wala akong minor na koto, natutunan ko siya sa tugma. So, ayun.
Doon din papasok yung mayroong mga techniques doon na parang ako lang yung nag-figure out kung sana yung mentor mo is alam yun, matuturo niya talaga yung buong So may barrier pa rin siya. Yun yung na-realize ko after ng recital ko na baka pwede pa mag-improve sana yung performance ko noon. Then pumasok na si Doc. Nung pumasok si Doc, mas nag-improve yung koto playing ko since meron din time na pumunta kami ng Singapore para mag-attend ng koto workshop. So, dun sa workshop na yon kasama si Kazue Sawai and yung Koto Koton. And naging sobrang special and honor sa amin yon na mga dumalo doon na maturuan niya and makita ang koto playing styles ng iba pang students na nandoon. Kasi si Kitai Sensei, siya yung sensei na based sa Singapore. So, madaming na-impart sa amin na knowledge on koto na noon is hindi pa namin na-realize, especially yung tones, okay? Yung speed. Kasi meron style yung tugma noon which is palaging mabilis. Okay? Emphasis on speed, emphasis on attack. Whereas pagdating namin doon, nakita namin na hindi mo kailangan maging mabilis tumugtog. Kailangan maganda yung tones na lumalabas sa'yo. Dahil yun talaga ang essence ng koto playing, no? So, ayun. Dahil doon, mas nainganyo ako sa koto. Hanggang ngayon, tumutugtog pa rin ako. And, gaya ng iba, gaya ni Kim, gusto ko pumunta ng Japan. Gaya ni Danny, siguro gusto ko pumunta ng Japan para mag-aral under sa Waikoto School. Kasi gusto ko talagang i-level up yung knowledge and ko sa koto. Gusto ko talagang magkaroon ng formal. Kasi kay Doc talagang nagbago yung koto playing ko.
With Ma'am Hiroko, napansin ko na because she's Japanese, she studied in the Koto School, yung napaka-strict niya dun sa pitches. Parang hindi siya basta lang specific talaga siyang hinahanap na tamang pitches. Tapos may tamang tamang atake din dun sa mga techniques na meron sa pagpe-play ng koto yun. So, iba talaga yung nag-aaral ka na under a master or guru na parang sarili niya talagang kultura yun.
Yun nga, ang ganda din sinabi Ate Ginny kasi it's one thing na I started picking up when I started understanding Japanese rin na may mga ibang parts sa pyesa na hindi natin talaga nga mapapansin kasi hindi naman tayo native sa kultura, hindi natin mabasa yung aside from yung yung pluck natin. One thing na we have to understand is kahit gaano tayo kagaling sa pagtugtog mismo, dahil siyempre inaaral natin siya base sa perspektibo na hindi naman natibo dun sa kultura, meron talaga mga nuances, may mga cultural ideas na hindi natin talaga maintindihan kaagad unless kunyari kung talagang alam mo yung tipong alam na alam mo na rin pating kultura dahil tumira ka doon o kaya dahil alam mo yung salita. Bale, may mga ganun lang na parte doon sa musika na hindi mo talaga maintindihan hanggat sa mag, hindi ka mag-aral, hindi ka mag-aral sa ilalim ng isang tao na taga doon rin, yun, natibo siya doon sa kultura na yun. Kaya lang, parang, alam mo, may language barrier rin, na hindi lang naman language talaga, may cultural barrier rin, na kahit magaling tayo tumugtog, hindi lang naman yung galing sa tugtog ang hanap natin. Yung sabi nga ni server na parte yung musicality mo, yung pagkaintindi mo dun sa inaaral mo, hindi lang yung virtuosity, pero parte yung pagkaintindi mo dun sa kultura. Parte siya ng musicianship mo, kumbaga.
You said na merong cultural barrier. So, ano yung ways na at least kayo navigate ninyo yung cultural barrier mo? May mga input ba kayo guys dyan on how to overcome that?
Yeah.
Or
Can I
navigate?
just
Okay.
interject lang a little bit? Because like I feel like my experience is like when it comes to like the culture and stuff is a little different.
Okay.
So yung background ko is that I'm part Japanese. And like every year, like Nikki must like we go to Japan pretty much every year. But like there was a period of my life where I didn't want to go back, and I pretty much like hated everything that had to do with Japan, that had to do with because like identity like it with in that respect had always been like a struggle for me, because as somebody who's only part like people in the like when you're in the Philippines, people would be like so amazed by it, be like, oh, can you teach me how to speak, can you say this in Japanese, oh, do you watch anime without subtitles? I'd get those things over and over and again, and I understand the fascination, I truly do, but like at a certain point it can get a little exhausting and can get a little tiring. And on the other hand, this is something that's often overlooked and not really talked about, because whenever I'm in Japan, I do experience kind of a lot of discrimination because I'm not I'm not pure, basically, and it hurts. It hurts. Na you want to be connected to this culture, and I did grow up with the traditions. I grew up with the language. I grew up learning all about it. I knew all about it, but at the same time, I still didn't feel welcome, because like people who are half Japanese and half white don't realize that they're still more privileged than people who are half Japanese and half something else that's Asian. Because if you're a wafu or like white hafu, you get the whole kakkoi ne, like you look cool, you look good because you have Western blood in you. But if you're also have something else that's Asian, you're either seen as tainted. Sometimes they even call you like degrading things like what was I called? Like daken. Daken means mongrel. So like for me, like the whole dealing with Japan, like being part Japanese was like an identity I always struggled with. And like so it was something I also kind of regret not like that period in my life where I just refused to do anything with Japan, because I felt like I lost so much in that time. And then my fluency kind of dropped a little bit, so it's kind of like you hear the language, you can understand it, but like you're just like, how do I form sentences again? Kind of like that.
Right.
And then I ended up in the College of Music, and then I was asked like what minor I should get. I wanted to minor in composition, but I was advised by another teacher like, oh wait, don't do compo yet. Take up another instrument. Take up another instrument first para mas lalo kang gagaling. That's what she told me. And then when I asked for advice on what instrument I should get, she said, she asked me first for my background in music, and like Ate Jenny, my background is very Western. I played the piano, I played the violin. I'm a bassist in a band. Well, was a bassist in a band. I played the guitar, the flute, etc., etc. Very Western.
Yeah.
So she told me, okay, don't get a Western instrument. So I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what to get then. And then she basically just showed me like, oh, here are like the non-Western options. And I saw like the koto. I was like, koto ga aru ne. Like there's a koto here. Like there's a koto here. I was very surprised. Like that there was a koto. It's like, you know what? Why not go for it? I don't know how to describe exactly how I felt when I started lessons with like Ma'am Hiroko, with Nagai sensei, because like I guess she understood in a sense that like she knew I was part Japanese, because I remember the first lesson she was like she responded positively when I said my reason for why I had an interest in Japanese culture. She responded so positively, and I think she understood that I guess in a way that I wanted to connect more with a culture that's supposed to be mine, but I kind of shunned away. So during the course of our koto lessons, she'd like when we she'd be like, oh, do you remember about this particular festival, or do you remember about like this particular concept? I'm like, oh, hi, and like that I remember. Yeah, boy, I do. And so yeah, and then she'd be able to connect us and help me understand the music better. And for me, it was such a like at the end of every koto lesson, I always feel like crying, but not out of sadness, but more because like I'm finding a part of myself that I turned away, a part of myself that I felt like I lost. So which I feel like so beyond grateful for Nagai Sensei, and like for the opportunity to be able to learn more about myself and about my culture.
Nakakatuwa lang yung lahat tayo iba-iba yung storya natin, pero at some point talagang lahat rin tayo may naging meeting, kumbaga, sa koto may encounter. Yan rin yung team naman natin, di ba? Mga encounters natin. Tapos doon tayo unti-unting parang lumubog na hanggang ngayon, di ba, nagpo-continue ensemble. Ngayon naman tayo na yung nandun sa posisyon na yun, na tayo yung nagpo-perform, tayo nag-aaral, na bagamat hindi man tayo parang yung mga super galing nga na professional, in a way, di ba, meron rin tayong responsibilidad. Kung isipin nyo lang, di ba, yung mga manonood ng mga tugtugan natin ngayon, sila rin yung mga tutuloy sa susunod sa atin pagkatapos natin kung maganda yung pagpakita natin sa kanila ng ang ginagawa natin. Sila yung susunod sa atin.
Natutunan ko, when you learn to respect and love or appreciate someone else's culture, you also get to appreciate more or find yung sarili mo.
Ako particularly gusto ko sabihin is mahalin natin yung sariling atin. Mahalin natin tong instrumentong to, yung musikang ito, kasi ang dami nating nakuha mula dito. Bale, dami nating nakuha ang biyaya sa identity natin, sa pagtugtog natin, sa mga pagkakaibigan natin din. Pero higit rin doon, di ba? Yung sumasailalim rin doon is yung sariling atin.
Hey guys, thanks for watching.
皆さん最後まで見てくれてありがとうございます。
There's more music and discussions like this coming to you with our BANYUHAY web series.
トゥグマのBANYUHAYウェブシリーズでもっとたくさんの音楽とお話をお届けします。
So check out our Facebook page and YouTube channel for more.
興味があればぜひ Facebook ページのフォローと YouTube チャンネル登録をよろしくお願いします。またね。